Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Philanthropy Network here on Radio Roll in Las Vegas. Roy Kessel and I are excited to interview Mr. and Mrs. Randy Grimes. Randy, I know we have a podcast coming up next month. That's too long to wait.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tell our audience a little bit about why you guys are here and what you're doing.
Well, this is my 13th consecutive year to be here and talk about the work that I do with Pro Athletes in Recovery.org and White Sands Treatment Center in Tampa, Florida. But also, this has been a big weekend because I have this week, yesterday, released my book, my first book. And man, this is 234 pages. I poured my heart and soul into it. And, it's the story of my journey out of darkness back into the light. There's something for every family in this book. I talk about there's a whole lot of different characters because we wrote our story around an intervention that's going on. So there's characters in there and there's something that everybody can relate to in here. And this is addiction affects the whole family. And when you go through this and you read about the different characters, there's codependency, there's enabling, there's stigma, there's all these things. And, it's been a beautiful process because it's been a real healing venture for my whole family to be a part of this book. And I'm grateful for that. And, I encourage everybody to pick up Off Center and go to Amazon, or you can go to offcenterthebook.com and it'll take you to that link.
So Randy, one of the things that I want to talk about is the woman sitting next to you.
She's the hero of my story.
And that's exactly what I want to ask.
Tell us about the hero.
Tell us about the hero in the story, guys.
She's talking to you. Yeah.
Tell me about me. Well, I wouldn't say I'm a hero at all. Going through this process, you want to love them to death. You want to take care of them. I put him in quite a few treatment centers. And then he relapsed. And there we go again, the same thing over and over. And I would say that, I had the pity parties, wondering why in the world is this happening to me and my children. And we lost homes and cars and jobs. And, it started that cycle. We hid it. I tried to hide it for a long, long time. I did pretty good. The stigma, you don't want anybody to know, and you keep it hidden from everyone. But eventually it caught up with us, He started cycling down. Everybody saw it. So, it was just a blessing when the miracle came of his recovery. God, I kept praying and praying, and the Lord finally, opened that door when he surrendered, when he was ready. And it's just been a miracle. It's been a miracle that our family's healed.
And Lydia talks all the time about how God always promised her that he would restore our family. She held on to that faith that he would, and that's where it took a hero to put, trudge through all those years and all the misery and pain that I was putting, not only her and my children through, but our finances, our reputation, our everything. Addiction destroys everything.
I do know that, Randy, and I want to just, on a personal note, before we started this recording, I had the impression that your wife was the hero.
Listening to her
speak.
All glory to God.
Speak.
Amen.
All glory to God.
Yes.
Amen.
That's the main thing.
And that's where the whole
Nothing that we've done. It's all been him.
So I do want to ask
you about the book because I'm
compelled to read it. I can't wait. Tell us a little bit about the book. I know it just got released.
It's already a bestseller. Who'd have thunk it, right?
I
love it. What are some of the nuggets that people are going to get out?
Well, it's a tragic story. It's a love story. It's like I said, my journey out of darkness back into the light. It shows how it affects families, and it shows it pretty graphically too. We didn't hold anything back. I even have the letters from my children while I was in treatment. So you see how it affected my children. So I kept it raw, but there's a lot of hope in this book, and lives are restored because of recovery. Marriages are healed. Relationships are resurrected as a result of recovery. And those are the kind of things that are in this book.
One of the things I'd like to ask, when you talked about that moment when you started the process, like when you got to that point that you were ready for the recovery phase, it's always interesting. What did it take to get to that point? What was that
That's
trigger?
the nicest way ever of asking, what was your bottom? Well, I'll tell you, every bottom that I hit had a trap door. It always went lower every time. And the perfect storm was coming together in the summer of 2009. A good friend that I played with in Tampa, Tom McHale, passed away doing the exact same thing I was doing, self-medicating the injuries he got while he played for the Bucks. One morning, he just didn't wake up. That got my attention. The fact that Lydia couldn't handle it she couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't sit by and watch me continue to kill myself anymore. And she didn't leave me, but she was certainly thinking about it. She was very close. My daughter wouldn't let me come around my first grandchild because I wasn't fit to be around him. And I'd had a series of seizures as a result of withdrawal. And so we had real health issues that we were concerned about. So that was the perfect storm that finally, after all the misery and pain I put my family through, I finally put up my hand and asked for help. And that was September 22nd, 2009.
So,
Randy, one of the things that I want to talk about is the pro athletes in recovery. I said to you earlier, I think the problems are concussions, addiction, and being lost after retirement. Can you speak a little bit about your experience with that and what that pro athletes in recovery is doing?
Absolutely. And then most of the guys that I work with are guys that have absolutely lost everything. And I'm talking about former players, the guys that have been out of the game, legends of the game that have been out for a very long time, and they have lost absolutely everything. And it's shocking, and it's not shocking to find out that they thought that they were the only ones out there struggling through this that whole time. Because I remember feeling like that too. I remember thinking, man, I can't talk to anybody about this. I was this pro athlete, I've got all this pride and this ego, and that's what nearly killed me, was that guilt and shame of living like that and not putting my hand up and ask for help. So that's why I started Pro Athletes in Recovery. I wanted to be that bridge between the player and the resource, because I knew there was a lot of guys out there struggling. I played with them and played against them, so I knew exactly what they were going through and how they were handling it, how they were self-medicating it. And I wanted to get in front of as many of them as I could, get them to put up their hand. And my gosh, hundreds and hundreds of guys have gotten help as a result of just going public with my story, So, I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm grateful that Lydia's been able to work with a lot of the wives and families. And because we've been there, we've definitely lived it.
And that actually led me right into the question I had for Lydia, so thank you for setting that up. Lydia,
to watch somebody that you love battle with an addiction, I just got to ask, you're not alone. We know the numbers, we know the statistics. What is your message for anybody who is in a committed relationship, whether it's a child, a parent, their partner? What do you say to them to inspire them and give them hope? Because you stuck with this guy for quite a while.
all the way.
And you're not alone. You need to seek out help for yourself. I tried to hide it. I think that there are groups. There's Al-Anon, there's Celebrate Recovery. Going to those kind of things, therapy for yourself to find out how to handle the addict. There's boundaries that you need to set in place and consequences. And I would get him to treatment, but then he'd come home and relapse. And I didn't know what to do with him. And it was just over and over. So I would say, seek out help for yourself. You've got to talk to someone, whether it's your pastor, your children. They don't need to suffer in silence either. We isolated. It was hard. So I wish that I could go back. You have regrets, and so much time was wasted. But I would tell them to seek out help.
So my question follows up on that. So Randy's talking about the fact that men don't have the ability to talk about the issues and get that support from each other, and they're afraid to go and find people in their community that are going through that. But what about from your side in terms of other wives that are dealing with this with their husband? How do you open up the door? Because the wife may be ready to talk about it, but if the men aren't, is the wife going to be open to that conversation?
Yeah, that's a problem because they don't want to go behind their husband, you know, they don't, but most of the time they're so desperate for help, you know, they want to talk about it, and hopefully they'll reach out, you know, just getting the word out that we're available to help them find the resources they need, and that they'll reach out to us or to player care, anything like that with the NFL or anybody. It's not just pro athletes, we help anyone, so they'll reach out to us.
Yeah, and I tell guys all the time, you know, this is a selfish program. You got to take care of yourself. If you don't keep yourself right, then everything else is for nothing, you know. So, you know, you got to, same way with codependents or people in Al-Anon, things like that. You've got to do your own program. You've got to take care of yourself because you're not going to be good to anybody else. Unfortunately, this is a very selfish program, but it has to be, because you have to take care of yourself. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first, right?
I think you nailed it, both of you. These are, you know, in 11 minutes, these are the words that need to be said very, very quickly. I just want to piggyback off of a couple of things. ProAthletesinRecovery.org.
Okay.
That book, Off Center. Randy, could you hold it up one more time?
offcenterthebook.com, or you can find me at whitesandstreatment.com or wstreatment.com, and I'm all over social media, so if you can't find me, you're not trying very hard, you know? Sober Center 60. Oh yeah, you can go to Amazon and the book's available right now. Bestseller. I just saw the tag. Just came out yesterday.
And I'll echo that. Very easy to respond in some media because I had followed the work you were doing and just reached out to say, Randy, thank you for creating open possibilities through sports. And right, there's this message back, like, you bet, happy to help. Let me know if I can do anything. Your spirit shines through.
Thank you
You
very much.
are a bright light, a city on a hill.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Guys, my name is Kayla Brad. I'm here with Roy Kessel on Radio Row in LA. So grateful to be here with Mr. and Mrs. Grimes. Roy, take it back.
Thank you, Kayla, Randy. Thank you both for coming on the show. We appreciate you sharing your story. It's so important for people to be able to feel that there's a community and a network that will let them get the support that they need, because so many people in that situation are afraid to reach out, afraid to speak up and get the assistance that's vital for them. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your story for our viewers and listeners. We appreciate you taking time to join Sports Philanthropy Network here on Radio Row at Super Bowl 56 in LA. We're excited for the rest of the week, but we want to remind you to live generously.
Thank you, everyone.